It's a big topic. I think I should dive in. Why are there songs? I was encouraged by the director of this conference to do a talk that might be slightly impractical, to talk about something that maybe I wanted to talk about that I might never otherwise be asked to talk about. And this is one of those things. So I think Victoria is just joining us. I'll give her a minute. Connect to audio. All right, there she is. Hi, Victoria. Thanks for joining us. So why are there songs? This question is tangled up in so many biological and cultural and even philosophical branches that it may be impossible to find its root. But we have 30 minutes, 18, 28, something like that. So I better start. And I'll start in the most logical place that I know to start. Sex. Sex is very expensive. And I don't mean just like tickets to the symphony, as helpful as that might be. I mean life, DNA, evolution. If we could just split in two, that would be a lot easier. That would be a lot less messy, a lot less time consuming. I mean, we spend a lot of time finding our forever person, and then maybe we find out that they're not our forever person, and then we need a whole system of government to keep us from killing each other. It's very messy. But also, as sexual creatures, it takes two of us to make children. So sexual reproduction in the simplest mathematical terms means fewer babies. Why would we evolve to make fewer babies? Doesn't that break the cardinal rule of evolution? But the reason we mix it up is because evolution is not very good at preparing us for what's about to happen. So for 1 million years, we come to the table with a royal flush. We win poker game after poker game. And then one day, nature says, today, the game is blackjack. And wouldn't you want to shuffle that deck one more time? Sexual reproduction shuffles the deck. So the expense of sexual reproduction, this messy process, is an insurance payment. We mix our genes up, if not randomly, certainly not logically. There certainly seem to be a lot of irrational decisions involved, gut feelings, you could call it emotional intelligence. And we decide the fate of nations based on the deodorant that someone is wearing, or whether they know the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars, what kind of music they like. And frequently we're attracted to people who fascinate us because we don't understand them at all. Maybe that's just me. But that chaotic, not random, but that chaotic subconscious decision-making process is part of the answer to why we have songs, or any sort of creative impulse at all. The creativity is an adaptation for survival in an unpredictable universe. And sexual reproduction is just one manifestation of this natural desire that we have, not just for survival, but also for prosperity and strength and beauty. And that desire drives all forms of creativity. And sex is very good at getting people's attention. So now that I have your attention, let's talk about music. What specifically drives our endless fascination with and our nearly infinite uses for this creative enterprise that we call songs? In the music business, which I'm in, the music business, we say it's hard to sell music, but music sells everything. Movies, advertisements, the most mundane things like grocery stores have music. Brands have melodies that identify them. I could sing the YouTube SciShow melody. Ba 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 da ba. I hear that and I know what I'm about to see. You can't find a culture without music, and there are very few cultural events of any kind that don't feature or even require music as a part of them. I once hiked a portion of the Appalachian Trail, which is like one of the ultimate ascetic experiences in the Western world. And I saw so many people with a little iPod and a solar charger. And the one thing that they could have done without, but they didn't want to, was music. So what is it about humanity and our need for music, and more specifically songs? So I'd like to bring this idea of universal creativity together with three human superpowers. Their abilities and inclinations that are specific to, sometimes surprisingly specific to, the human species. Rhythm, language, and the ability to make predictions. Rhythm, language, and the ability to make predictions come together to form and inform the human musical experience. So let's start with rhythm. Humans are incredibly sensitive to and masters of manipulating rhythms. We have the rhythms that are beyond our control even are some of the most sacred bits of our knowledge, ancient knowledge. We have millennia and centuries and years. We have all the way down to yoctoseconds. I don't know, you probably know this already, but 156 yoctoseconds is the mean lifetime of a Higgs boson. I know you probably know that. It's just an important bit of knowledge that we spent decades and billions of dollars to figure out. And when nature doesn't give us the rhythms, we create them if we need them. We have a fortnight, we have semesters, we have daylight saving time, which God knows nobody needs. But isn't it interesting how maddening it is? It throws off our inherent sense of rhythm. Now, all creatures are driven by rhythms, not just humans. They have mating seasons and migrations. They may be diurnal, nocturnal, crepuscular. Even the most basic senses are built to detect frequencies, which are just microrhythms, which like wavelengths of color and the pitches of sound. But what makes humans different is the way that we react to and utilize rhythms. And I want to play you just a little piece of a song here. I'm going to have to share my screen and share the sound. Just a little piece here. Okay, it's enough. So how many of you, and I saw some, how many of you are bopping your heads, tapping your foot? Did you know that we're the only species that does that? There are a few species of birds that can do it, but they do not, as a rule, as a species, do it. As far as we know, there are no little bird discos. But there are not even any monkey discos. Even the most closely related species to us do not dance in rhythm. They can't. Nor do they use tools to create rhythms. If you were researching monkeys or polar bears or dragonflies or whatever, and you observed them creating tools to make rhythms so that all the others of them could get together and move together in rhythm, I think your research would take a sharp left turn. I think it's safe to say that if we want to truly understand humanity as a species, that music is not just an important area of research. I think it would be one of the most important areas of research that we could imagine because of its uniqueness to our species. Now, language is our second superpower I'd like to talk about, and language is, like music, an organization of rhythms. It's often said that music is a language, but music is many languages, each with their own regional dialects and accents, that constantly evolve over time, like any language. And language reaches a complexity in the human species that equals or rivals any species on the planet. We even love to play with language. We have crossword puzzles and word searches and puns. And songs are a part of that play that take language further by organizing it further. So words are rhymed with each other, and consonants and vowels are repeated in rhythm, which also aids in remembering those words. There's a reason why we say rhyme and reason. Big rig, I'll have the last laugh, busy as a bee, dead as a doornail. Like, doornail seems so random, but it's actually anti-random. It's the product of our constant search for something satisfying to say and memorable, and it worked because we still say it after 700 verified years of common and poetic use of this phrase, dead as a doornail. No one even knows what a doornail is anymore, but the music of that phrase is irresistible to our human ear. And we love to hear the things that we've heard before. Now, I'm an original songwriter and a performer, and my job would be so much easier if I just sang songs that people already know. And this brings us to our third human superpower through a back door, which is our desire to make predictions. And I might add the unparalleled satisfaction of making an accurate prediction. Like, I told you so. There's nothing more satisfying than that. And the compulsion to make good predictions is perhaps at our root of our fascination with rhythm. Most certainly, language and the ability to communicate information with each other through the use of language is a key component of making good predictions. So nobody's ever looked at the weather forecast for yesterday. All of our questions, our human questions, are all driven by the desire to make a prediction. How many people will die of COVID? What is the mean lifetime of a Higgs boson? It's 156 yoctoseconds. We know that now. Billions of dollars. Billions. Last year, and I'm sure I'm not alone in this, I took antidepressants for the first time. I had dark days. I had days I spent feeling along a wall in a dark corner of my mind, looking for a light switch or a door, any way out. I'm 50 years old. I've never been depressed. I've always been a happy person. I'm very smart. I'm innovative. I'm motivated. I built my own business on my own terms. I've won awards for my songwriting. I was holding the royal flush. But then nature decided to play blackjack. I couldn't make predictions. Nobody could. I couldn't tell if a piece of equipment was a good investment. My agent kept moving shows and then canceling them. I didn't know if I'd have an agent by the end of the year. I didn't know who was in my pod, but wasn't everyone in my pod also in another pod? And then they were in other pods. And we need predictions so much that millions, perhaps even billions of us, believe in predictions that no human could possibly make. We convince ourselves to believe fully and deeply in unsubstantiated things in order to ease this chaos. We have gods, astrologers, market analysts. And this past year, that machine really went into overdrive. Will the vaccine give everyone some weird cancer in 20 years? Nobody really knows. It's not likely, but there are people out there who claim to know, and people who believe them, and not because they're stupid, but because they have to. They need to. They are driven to. Imagine there's no heaven. That was such a radical lyric because it challenged the predictions of the most powerful religion in the world. Anarchy in the UK challenged the future of our politics, that we're not going to take it. It was this blanket challenge to all societal restrictions, as if as if generations of surly youth up until then would reliably take it. I mean, it's funny. Like, it's funny that old people, the older generation, reacted that way. But the emotional truth of this is real, that we need to be able to predict other people's behavior, especially. And that is the essence of culture. So what can our skills and our compulsions as a species with rhythm, language, the ability to make predictions, what does that all have to say about why we have songs? I think that songs are the meeting ground of all these human traits. Songs speak to us in our native language of rhythm. Songs organize language into powerful, memorable forms, packing an enormous amount of information and ideas into a very manageable size. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Right? Songs allow us to practice making predictions in a safe space. So by the second refrain of most popular songs, anyone could reliably sing along with them. Certainly you could stomp your foot and clap your hands along with that predictable rhythm. Songs enable us to disseminate and recreate ideas, and simultaneously they allow us to bring our most cherished ideas to their knees. The songs are the amalgam of our left and right brains, our conscious and our subconscious, our rational and irrational desires. Now, I want to take a moment here at the end to talk about a very special composition. It's the only composition of its kind that I know of. I think it's completely unique in human history, and that is rare for any composition. It's the only composition of its kind, or it's the only composition that I have on my phone, the only song I have on my phone. So that when I get into my truck, I'm going to drive somewhere, my phone connects to my stereo, and iTunes plays the first song, however it decides what the first song is. I don't know, but it doesn't matter because this is the only song in here. That this is what I hear. I mean this, what you're hearing right now. Modern experimental composer John Cage created a composition called 433 that is literally 4 minutes and 33 seconds of silence. But it's not just any silence. In a performance, a musician comes out on stage. Let's say it's a pianist. They would open the piano as if they're going to play it. They put out the sheet music, and then they sit there quietly for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. And the silence is incredible. In fact, there's no silence like it. A man shifts in his seat and coughs. A toilet flushes in the dressing room, or the air conditioner turns off, and suddenly you realize that the air conditioner was on in the first place. Each performance is unique because the silence, what we call the silence beneath it, is unique. And because the world beneath music is chaos. We are an incredibly intelligent species, but we know too much. We know that despite our best efforts, we live in an unpredictable universe. We know that there's no guarantee of walking out of this presentation alive. And that's dark. That's a dark thought. But when the world shut down, and I was in my darkest hour, people came to me and they asked me, how can we hear you? When are you playing? How can we keep the music alive? 2020 was the year that I learned in some completely intangible, unquantifiable, emotional, irrational, and yet completely irrefutable way why we have songs. Music is the anti-chaos. And yes, it can also help you with sex. And that's why we have songs. Thank you.